So let's start. I'm from the School of Biotechnology. My name is Dr. Tim Downing. I'm a lecturer in genomics there, and I'm going to talk today about our distinctive courses that we have here in the School of Biotechnology. And our flagship course is the one there at the top, our degree in biotechnology. And I guess that's about making things, biological products from biological organisms. So it's improving human health by creating things that you can use. It can be healthcare products, it can be drugs, it can be vaccines, but it's understanding biological organisms and how they work so we can use them to synthesize new things. All right, the next degree I'll talk about is our degree in genetics and cell biology. And that's more focused on how things work. How does life work? And that's at the molecular and cellular level. And we really need to understand how life works so we can combat, we can improve human health, we can understand the immune system, so we can understand how, if we take a drug, how it's metabolized inside the body. And then I'll talk further about our stream in biological sciences general entry. And that's for people who don't know what they want to do in first year. That means at the end of first year, you can choose either the degree in biotechnology or the degree in genetics and cell biology, or indeed the degree listed here, a new degree in bioprocessing. So that last degree is more focused on bioengineering. So you have a blend of three options here. Bioprocessing has the most bioengineering, genetics and cell biology has the least, and then biotechnology is kind of in the middle. So either way, we've got degrees that will cater towards your interests. We also have a good emphasis of biology in our two degrees, and one is in analytical science, which links in with chemistry more. So mixture of biology and chemistry, or certainly you can do a biology stream within there. And then also our degree in environmental science and technology, which is shared across the different schools here in biology and chemistry and physics. And that's trying to tackle environmental questions and problems using diverse scientific approaches. So as you know, DCU is a really high quality university, and we were acknowledged by the Sunday Times as being University of the Year in 2021 this year. We have really good rankings, for example, in graduate employment, where we're top in Ireland and one of the best in the world. We also do very well in diverse interests that are centered around what students want to do. So for example, many of our existing students and graduates play football for the Dublin football team. And I'm sure they'll be back into winning ways next year. But we've been Sports College of the Year for several years, and all the top sports students want to come here because we have facilities for students to pursue what they want to pursue. And in that vein, our school, the School of Biotechnology, has really good facilities. For example, our new microbial bioprocessing facility, which allows us to develop better biotechnological products, agri-food products, drug products, and so on. And that provides really the students who come into our school with a fantastic education to enable them to do what they want to do. Just this year, two of our staff members, Dr. Dermot Walls, who you might have met at the stand outside, and also Dr. Emma Finlay, who's shown here, were recognized nationally as teaching heroes for their excellent educational approaches. So this was acknowledged by the National Teaching Forum and also by the USI, and they were nominated by the students, by undergrads and postgrads, as being fantastic educators, fantastic lecturers. And that's what this school can offer you, is that we can provide you with the education and the knowledge and the skills so that you can do whatever it is you want to do later. And there's a broad range of options that I'll talk about in more detail. Those options and what you can do at DCU are really broad. So just for example, to think about broader societal impacts, an example of one of our genetics and cell biology students here in white is Sophie Becker. She was at the Tokyo Olympics this year while doing the final year of her genetics and cell biology degree. And she's here with Dr. Walls, who won the Teaching Hero Award. And he was congratulating her on behalf of the school of her fantastic performances, where she got to the Olympics final, part of the 4x400 mixed relay. And we supported her in this quest that she can balance her academic studies with other pursuits that she wants to do. So we really try to center our education approaches around, student goals, and that's really, really important. That you may not know what you want to do at this stage, but whatever it is you figure out as you go through our degree, we'll support you in that venture. So our own interests are really, really broad, so that we have options that cater for you in this school. So my area is more genomics and bioinformatics, and there's other staff who did things like applied immunology, biochemistry, microbiology, vascular health, biopharmacology, and we have a variety of different research institutes. For example, the one in computing, sensory research, the well-known NIPCB, the National Institute for Cellular Biotechnology, the Water Institute, and then the Advanced Process Technology Research Center. So we kind of link in with a range of research centers within DCU and then around DCU as well. And our staff interests around these diverse areas will ensure that you have options that cater to your needs. So what do you want to do? It's a tricky question. And we find that our students want to do diverse different things at the end of their degrees, irrespective of which one they choose. So some want to work in companies where they're ensuring the delivery of, say, drugs, vaccines, or whatever, to people. So there's a sense, a sense of business and marketing is what they go into, maybe masters at the master's level after our degrees. Others want to work as a bioengineer with companies or, with diverse sectors. Others want to do research science, and that could be with in a hospital, it could be in a university, it could be in a company. Others want to go into looking, say, at the environmental regulation, at water management, pollution management, all of those. And especially for our genetics and cell biology degree, a new kind of component is computational biology. That now in our era of many, many genomes, we can use that information to better understand, better develop drugs, to better develop biomedical approaches to improve human health. So really ensure the students now have the data analytics skills and are able to write computer code so they can cope with big data and really apply computational approaches to biological questions as well as molecular ones. So there are diverse options, not limited to working in the biopharma industry, the healthcare areas, medical devices, food technology, brewing and distilling, water and waste management, environmental science, biomedical and clinical science. There's really many diverse paths that these degrees will give you a path forward to go into. And we work with a variety of companies that I'm sure whose names I'm sure you know well, the likes of Pfizer, Eli Lilly, Merck, Alexion Pharmaceuticals, GlaxoSmithKline, and also Bristol Myers Squibb, BMS. And a lot of these have facilities not too far away in the likes of Dublin 15. We have Alexion Pharmaceuticals there in Dublin 15 as well. And a lot of the students go there early on during their undergraduate experience. So in third year, we have what's called INTRA. This is a distinctive feature of our degrees, integrated training. So in third year in January, they go out to a company or other workplace where the student wants to experience. It could be a hospital, it could be the university lab, it could be somewhere we've had students go to the US or Belgium. It could be looking at plant growth in golf courses, for example. There's really diverse areas. And they go there from January to August to kind of apply their skills that they've learned so far in a real world setting. And we find this experience is really, really formative for students and makes them think more deeply about why they're learning what they're learning, how they can apply it to the world around them, and what they want to do next. So in fourth year, we find that their perspective on things has changed. They have more intrinsic motivation to learn what it is that they want to learn. And we find that's really a really good instance of kind of work-based learning that is really, really beneficial for students. So if we then go back to first year, the entry requirements for these degrees. So it's basically to pass maths and also do one science subject. What we find is that most students do a single science subject for their Leaving Cert. And that's the most common option. So everyone's really in the same boat when they come to their first year. They've one science subject and they've differing levels of a maths background. And what's good about that is that whatever science subject you did, you'll have an easier time in first year. And that will give you time to catch up then for the other subjects. So if you did biology for your Leaving Cert, then you can spend more time in chemistry and physics to catch up in those areas and you'll find biology a bit easier. Vice versa, if you did chemistry only for your Leaving Cert, you'll find that easier in first year. And then you'll find biology and physics, you have more time to catch up in those areas. So that common first year entry means that everyone's kind of has the same understanding at the end of first year that you're safe to work in labs, and then you can apply, broadly speaking, scientific principles to whatever it is you want to do in second year. So I guess what's different about first year across the different programs is that there's a bigger emphasis on maths in BT, biotechnology, bioprocessing, and then BGSC, biological sciences, general entry, as well as our other programs, AS, analytical science, and EST, environmental science. What's distinctive about our degrees in genetics and cell biology is that we do have a bigger emphasis in first year from day one on biostatistics and computational biology, because those skills are the skills that everyone will need as a scientist in years to come. So let's look through our degrees. And the first one here is biotechnology. So this has been around for, as long as I've been alive. And the CEO points then this year are very competitive, and that's true for all our courses. So although these points levels are a bit inflated compared to historical levels because of the changes in the grading systems for the Leaving Cert over the past few years, they reflect our small class sizes, that we have a cap on the number of places. That means students who get into our degrees get a better experience there. They have smaller class sizes, more time to work with staff on different modules. And it also means that if you do get in to our courses, we have really good progression and retention rates, that those who get into first year, the vast majority graduate very, very well and get really good degrees at the end of it. So biotechnology is, if you want to make useful things from biological organisms. So what we can say that biotechnology is the application of scientific and engineering principles to the processing of materials, biological agents to produce goods and services. So for example, that could be vaccines against SARS-CoV-2 viruses. And I guess what's different about biotechnology and bioprocessing is that bioprocessing focuses more on the scaling this up. So not just producing or figuring out how to produce a drug that is effective against SARS-CoV-2, but thinking about how do we do that, produce that vaccine on a large scale. So bioprocessing is scaling up biotechnology to kind of a really mass high throughput setting. Biotechnology is kind of making that drug, and genetics and cell biology is understanding what's happening in that virus that is causing infections, and how can we target particular proteins or RNA inside that virus so we can stop it replicating. So examples of biotechnology projects, there's numerous, and I'm sure you may or may not use many of these. An example of there is given at the top. If we think about diabetes, many people need insulin on a day-to-day basis. And we make insulin by putting genes to produce insulin inside bacterial cells and other DNA components to allow bacterial cells to produce lots and lots of insulin. And we also create the right environment for those bacterial cells to grow. And then we also want to do this at a mass scale, because we all need a lot of insulin in society to help everyone. And that's an example where you can apply biotechnology principles to producing something and try to scale it up. And there's a wide range of products that can be produced that improve human health. So within that degree, we have a mix of different modules following then in second year, things like biochemistry, genetics and microbiology, some which are shared with other courses as well. But then more of a focus on bioengineering comes into our biotechnology degree, that we do bioprocess engineering, and follow that up in third year with more of it, but also a balanced approach where you do analytical microbiology, genetics, cell culturing, bioreactors, separation process, and then also commercial biotechnology. That's semester 1 of third year. In semester 2, you go on to the intraplacement. So the intraplacement, as I said, is formative, and that means when students get to fourth year, there's a range of modules there you do in semester 1. Things like bioreaction engineering, protein biotechnology, industrial bioprocessing, and then students in semester 2 can choose either the biopharma stream or the research project stream. So you have 2 choices that are also present in the genetics and cell biology degree. So if you look at this here of the layout of the years, there's an emphasis on kind of biology, of course, is a basis of all our degrees, but then we bring in more engineering into biotechnology degree as you go along. And there's a bigger emphasis in bioengineering and a bioprocessing stream as well. I see then in fourth year, you can either do the stream in a research project where you do, the likes of commercial biotechnology, industrial bioprocessing, and so on, coming into year 4. Or for a biopharma stream, you can do a range of structured modules linking with people in companies and other industrial practices that operate in the area of biopharma. And that stream does things like the delivery of biopharmaceuticals, the formulation of biopharmaceuticals, facility design, industry regulation and management, advanced bioanalysis, and so on. So the differences for those 2 streams is that the biopharma stream is oriented around the whole area of biopharmaceuticals, applying biotechnology concepts to that area. It's more structured, the 6 modules, but it's linked with many people who work in industry. And the research project means that you're working with staff and postgrads in different labs in bioengineering or other areas of biology in our schools here. And either way, you're kind of working with teams, you're working with problems that face us. So the project is more of an immersion in a specific project, whereas the biopharma option gives you kind of a better understanding of the wider area of biopharmaceuticals. And those two streams are also present as options for a genetics and cell biology degree, and then also for our biotechnology students as well. So we kind of center our options around what students want to do. You can do either one. It's up to you to decide what you want to do. And we do find, what you want to do changes all the time. So we find that many people who do the biopharma stream actually go back into universities and end up doing PhDs, and vice versa. People do the research project teams. Sometimes they get taken up by the likes of the Pfizer graduate entry program and go on to work in companies. So, either way, they're really good educational options that will open doors for you and allow you to pursue whatever it is you want to pursue in your path. So what graduates from this degree go on to do is really diverse areas. So some work for companies like SlidePath and Genentech. Others work in universities, say is working in the area of cell biology. Other works as protein production managers, fermentation process managers, consultant process managers, and so on. There's really diverse areas. And this degree and the other degrees will kind of open those doors that you can pursue what that is that you want to do. So that's biotechnology. And as kind of a biology with an emphasis on bioengineering. For a degree in genetics and cell biology, it has more of a focus on molecular and cell biology, and that's really its core. It is, it touches on bioengineering a bit, but there's not as much of an emphasis on that. So it's a different series of options catered for your interests. So as mentioned before, we have small class sizes, and therefore the CAL points, they're competitive. And that's not going to change next year, irrespective of how students are assessed. It's going to be high. So if you get into the course, you're going to do well at it because you know how to work hard. And this course is centered around how does life work? That's the central question. And that's an important question to understand. For example, if we look at SARS-CoV-2, if biotechnology students are producing vaccines, at the first step, we have to understand how viruses mutate, how they evolve. Vaccines can only be produced once we have sequenced all the DNA or RNA inside a virus. That's the first step. So we have to understand at a deep level molecular biology, including biochemistry, genetics, microbiology, immunology, vascular health, physiology, and so on. That's really, really fundamental to this course. And our graduate outcomes are quite broad as well. So in this course, a bit like biotech, in second year, you do things in biochemistry, genetics, microbiology, and so on. We have a bigger emphasis then on bioinformatics and biostatistics all the way through. And that's increasingly important now. If you're a scientist, you have to be able to apply not just lab-based methods, but also computational methods as well, because there's a lot that we can do with that. So for example, in third year, there's a module there on pathogen genomics that I teach. And currently, we're looking at DNA sequence mutations, or RNA technically, and the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So we want to understand how they're evolving now, so that we can better predict how to combat these viruses in the future. And then in fourth year, you can see modules there in immunology, human genetics, human genomics, commercial biotechnology. And then in semester 2 of fourth year, just like our biotech students, genetics and cell biology students get the choice. Do you want to do a research project, or do you want to do the biopharma stream? The choice is up to you. And we find that, every year the students are able to choose what they want to do. So I guess the distinctive modules in this course would link, if we look in third year there, the likes of comparative genomics and developmental biology, pathogen genomics, gene cloning, gene expression. And in fourth year then, for the research project stream, you have things like I mentioned already, human genetics and human genomics, and the research project across the different areas that staff have research interest in, or the biopharma stream, which I mentioned already. So it's very much around what you want to choose inside this degree. And then what you want to do afterwards, there's again diverse areas. So we have some who work in research universities, some who work with different companies, say as a molecular biologist, people who work in hospitals in clinical science, people work in research at different institutions. There really is broad broad options there. So again, these degrees will give you good educational attributes that you can do whatever you want to do later. So for example, in this degree, for the module on pathogen genomics, what we do is we look at SARS-CoV-2 and we look at the mutations that occur across the different viruses. What this kind of video, it's working, is showing is the emergence, and this is a family tree of these different viruses going over time. So going back from March 2020 or beyond up to the present day. And it's looking at these different viruses. And you see these circles here are samples taken from people in Ireland. What we can do is look at their mutations across the different samples and count the number of mutations that are different between the different samples we have here. So you might have 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 different mutations. And by looking at these mutations, we can reconstruct the family tree of these viruses and identify which ones are siblings or parents or grandparents or cousins or whatever. And in this way, we can reconstruct the whole image and go back in time, back to January 2020, even before to October 2019, and better understand the evolution of these viruses. So these isolates, all the ones that are in text, are ones that are isolated in Ireland. And you can see here, this kind of blue clade is the one in alpha, and the one above in green is delta. So we were able to access computationally the DNA sequences of these viruses, and therefore understand them much, much better. So by understanding the past history of the DNA sequences, that changes that have occurred, we're going to understand what's happening now, but also we can predict what's going to happen next. And that's really, really important, as you appreciate. So in thinking about how does life work? It's a fundamental question, but we want to think about societal problems that exist now. How do SARS-CoV-2 viruses evolve? How do they adhere to the host cells? How do these mutations affect their ability to adhere host cells? We know for alpha and also delta, they can transmit better. They adhere to host cells much, much better than the original ones that emerged at the start of 2020. And those are really important questions, so we can predict what's going to happen next. Are they going to become more transmissible? Are they going to be more virulent to cause worse disease in us all? Those are really burning questions, and we can study them using a genetic approach. So these are the type of questions we want to tackle inside these courses. So if you're not sure what you'd like to do with your life, a question maybe that sometimes occurs for us all, you can choose the biological sciences general entry, and your stage or your parent stage even, you may want to be sure what you want to do next year. So you can choose the biological sciences general entry. So you can do biotechnology or genetics and cell biology or a new degree in bioprocessing at the end of first year. So what you get in biological sciences general entry is kind of an impression of these different areas. And you have much better understanding at the end of first year of what you really want to do and what you're interested in, and also what you're not interested in terms of what to do next. And that's really good to have inside a degree. So you have flexibility that we allow students, say if you go into biotechnology at the start of first year and you realize after a few weeks, actually genetics is the course for me, you can transfer, and vice versa. We allow that flexibility, and we have a handful of students every year that transfer. And we try to allow flexibility in our courses at all stages. So in that vein, I'm going to talk about our bioprocessing degree now. It's got a new degree and center around this question of not only making biological products, but also doing it at a large scale. So producing useful things at a really large scale using biological organisms. So bioprocessing is using microbes to make useful things for us all. So that could be drugs, vaccines, food products, and we use this using the right environments for engineered microbes. So this is some of our staff and students here at our microbial processing facility, a new facility to allow this kind of teaching and research to operate within our school. So these students do some similar modules that we talked about before, but they have a bigger emphasis on bioprocess engineering all the way through. That starts in second year and kind of grows and grows. So you see there in third year, they do things like advanced biology, bioprocess engineering, bioprocessing and the environment, pilot scale bioprocessing. And then after intra in third year, they go into fourth year where they do bioprocessing scale up, bioprocess automation and other modules centered around that area. Which I'll also notice as, again, for this particular degree, because it's part of the Human Capital Initiative, there's a bigger emphasis on in third year problem solving for bioprocessing, and then in fourth year project innovation management. So this kind of links more closely with industry and kind of workplace practices and industry practices in trying to solve immediate problems that are around us from the perspective of a bioengineer. So that means kind of working in groups together to tackle problems. So it's more of a dynamic degree in that sense, an innovative degree in that sense compared to the other two. In terms of the distinctive modules, I've mentioned most already. So you've like of bioreactors and bioseparations and so on before the interplacement. And then in fourth year, what's worth noting is that this degree is centered around doing a research project in fourth year. There's no option to do the biopharma stream. So that semester one means you do a lot of industrial bioprocessing labs, and so on before doing a research project at the end of in semester two of fourth year. And then the research project would be in a range of bioengineering labs we have that do things like looking at environmental waste, for example, and how to metabolize that using bacteria. We also have other degrees that we teach into in our school. Environmental science and technology kind of encompasses a broad spectrum, broad understanding of biology and chemistry and physics. And again, that course is one that's shared across different schools here. And that's really centered around these problems that we all face of climate change, of the biodiversity crisis, and our problems with pollution. So again, that course is centered around really important problems that society faces and using diverse scientific processes to tackle these. And especially in fourth year, there's kind of biology linked options inside that course. We also link in with a degree in analytical science, which is a strong emphasis on chemistry. But then in third year and fourth year, there's streams in biology where you can do a project that's more centered in our school than in chemistry for students who want to kind of balance biology and chemistry. So in that sense, we've got kind of diverse options in the faculty to cater towards your needs. So analytical science kind of combines biology and chemistry. The EST, environmental science, kind of does a mixture of biology and chemistry and physics to tackle environmental questions. And we have the three degrees I mentioned earlier, where bioprocessing is focused around bioengineering and biology. Biotechnology is a mix of bioengineering and biology, but more of an emphasis on biology than bioengineering. And then at the other end is genetics and cell biology, which is really strong emphasis on molecular and cell biology and just touches on bioengineering. So in that way, we have different degrees that will cater towards your interests. So that's the end of the talk now. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.